I'm here today with Alderman Fred Teeboon. He was instrumental in basically conceiving this whole idea from inspiration he achieved there at the visitation that he had at Dachau, which was a concentration camp located in Bavaria, which is in Germany, but very close to Munich. And so I invited Fred to kind of take us through the memorial and tell us where the inspiration came from, and also with his long-time relationship with the sculptor that named John from Brookline that sculpted most of those stone pieces. And so, Fred, I'm going to leave it to you to take us on a tour, and tell us all about it.
Well, the inspiration came from before Dachau. After all, I'm a hidden child, so the memory of the war is always with me. We'll start by having the railroad, which symbolizes the same as what took the Jews in cattle cars. They were rounded up, they're told, to report at the train station. They didn't know where they were going, probably a camp to work. So this symbolizes the tracks and the cattle cars to which they were transported to the death camps.
And many of them didn't make it, right? Many died on the train.
Very few. Well, many died in the train, but millions died in these death camps.
Right.
So this is the first monument. These monuments, different people contributed to them, but this gives you a summary of what I just mentioned. There were 3 million people that were killed in killing centers. There were 6 million total killed. 3 million were killed in what we call killing centers, death camps. And that's what the concentration is, because my entire family was killed in Auschwitz and in Sobibor, except for my immediate family, my father, my mother, my brother, and myself. They're the only ones saved out of over 100 family members.
Wow.
Teeboons. So that explains briefly how people got into these trains. Like I said, many died in these trains. There was no food, there was no water, no sanitation. And if you look at the movie called Schindler's List, that has an excellent short depiction of these trains.
Right.
The transformation of Schindler was when he helped put water from a hose poured into these trains. As a scene, that was his transformation.
Right. This is akin to what the slaves went through when they were boated over from Africa to the United States. Many died in transit to them because of unsanitary conditions.
Well, in America, we had our own genocide, haven't we?
We sure did.
We did it to the Indians, and then we did it to the blacks. But no country in history of mankind has gone to other nations, taken out their populations to transport them in the death camps of their own design. There is no similar event in all of history where it happened. People committed genocide in our own country. And people may have, like the blacks, brought them over as slaves. They did not intend to kill them in killing centers. Right. Only Germans and Nazis ever conceived to wipe out an entire ethnic population.
Just an entire race. Yeah.
Entire race. These was put up by the city of Nashua, the LED lights. This monument, this was donated by Grace Fellowship Church. It's not just Jewish organizations that contribute. That's Grace Fellowship Church. That's a church right down on Main Street. There's a bench that my son donated to the victims, the homosexual victims, mentally incapacitated citizens. We're going to clean these monuments. They've been around now for nearly, 10 years.
Yeah.
They need cleaning. We have commissioned Gate City Monument to clean the monuments.
Perfect.
Not all, I can't afford to do them all.
Gate City's a good company.
Gate City, good company. Also going to fix, there's a little bit of vandalism around here. Not much, but a small amount. Like you can see that the pedestals on that bench, the Temple Beth Abraham bench, been turned. That didn't happen by itself. This monument quotes the New Testament, Luke, 1940. All the monuments are made of granite.
Right.
They represent the stone. Stones have significant meaning in the Bible. And in Luke 1940, kids were making noise and playing while Jesus was preaching. And they said, let's keep these kids quiet. And Jesus said, if the kids keep quiet, these stones will cry out.
Absolutely.
That's a quote from Luke 1940.
And suffer the little children to come to me.
I don't know the full quote,
Right.
but I'm more familiar with the Old Testament than the New
Absolutely.
Testament as a Jew, obviously. But Joshua is an old quote from the Old Testament. And when Joshua crossed over into Israel, what's the name of the river? The
Jordan.
River Jordan. Yeah, I need help here. I can't remember all of this stuff.
A lot of things happened in
They
the Jordan
laid
River.
they laid down the stones to mark the moment that they crossed. And he said, this is Joshua, when the children ask, what means these stones that are placed there? He said, then you should answer, these stones shall be for a memorial unto the children of Israel forever. So all the people of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty. We have in this monument both the Old Testament and the New Testament. This memorial is not just to the Holocaust. That's why Carl Babel is the keynote speaker, speaking to the genocide taking place right now, today in Ukraine. Just as nasty. Now they may not be building death camps, but they're bombing everybody.
Right.
They're bombing all the cities. They try to wipe everybody out. They take the children and move them into Russia. I mean, that is genocide any way you want to look at it. And that's what this memorial is about. Now we can say with this monument, never forget, and the other side is never again.
Never again.
You can say never forget, hopefully people don't. Never again, that's a hope, which so far we haven't seen. What makes people hate Jews? You know, are they smarter? Are they more powerful? What makes people hate Jews? I don't know.
I don't know either. What makes people hate anyone?
I've had people call me on the phone. They're obviously Nazis. And they say, you know, they kind of threaten to come to a memorial and say, where is it located? We know where you are. We know where you live. And they haven't come. Although, like I mentioned, there's been some small amount of vandalism. What isn't? Why do they do it? I don't know. And you ask yourself, what motivates them? It's just the need for some people to denigrate other people. I understand that. I don't like everybody. I'm known to be a guy that doesn't like a lot of people. The mayor isn't here. Okay? Mayor and I don't get along all that well these days. But that doesn't mean you go out and have them killed in mass.
Doesn't mean you have to hate them either.
I don't really hate them. You don't get along with everybody.
Right.
You don't have to get along with everybody, but you don't hate everybody. That's true. These here are donations, all the bricks, to try to get some money together to build a memorial today like this.
Yeah, how much you think was all in on this project?
The total we put in this project is probably $250,000. Today it costs you about $1 million. Now the city donated the land. This is, what is this, a half an acre lot,
Yeah,
roughly?
3/4.
Donated by the city for this purpose. I was an alderman. I was in the right place at the right time with the right mayor. I was able to put in a resolution. I was able to drum up support. There was other plans for this place, and I was able to get in. And John Weidman, who you mentioned, helped design that monument.
Did you know him before you started this project, or did you have an
the
association
way
with him?
I met Weidman, there is a weird-looking monument made out of metal, which used to be up Revere University in a circle, and then now moved it into the mill yard. And I forgot what he called it, but when he dedicated that, I went to see it, and there was a monument about the size of that monument, the Never Again monument. And I looked at it and I said, somehow the inspiration caught me. Why can't we build something in Nashville, but more than a single monument? And I contacted Weidman. He was very receptive, very receptive. Weidman is world known.
Right.
He's
a world-renowned sculptor.
World-renowned sculptor. He's done things to Vietnam, as an example. And he conceived this idea. So we go into that. That is the center part. This is what makes this memorial unique. There is no other memorial in the entire world that has something like this.
So what strikes me when you walk up is the barbed wire.
The barbed wire to start with. We didn't make it real wire. We thought about making it real wire. We decided not to because we figured it might get ripped out and rust away. So he came up with the idea of inscribing the wire. On top of that, the tracks, rail tracks. That was conceived before Pan Am Railways donated the rail tracks. But those are rail tracks just like those are rail tracks, the bronze rail tracks. Now let's go inside. These monuments weigh 12,000 pounds. They cut from the Rock of Ages granite in Vermont. It's the finest granite you can find. Inside are 6 walls. Each of these walls represent a death camp. The Nazis built many camps, many concentration camps, but there were 6 camps built with one objective, to kill people. The most well-known is Auschwitz, which is the one facing as you walk in. And that's the largest. People refer to it as Auschwitz-Birkenau. I call it Auschwitz. Belzec, Meisterneck, Treblinka, Chelmno, and Sobibor. And my family was killed in Auschwitz and in Sobibor. They had particular parts of Europe where the Nazis transported Jews. The Dutch Jews were mostly sent Dutch to Auschwitz or to Sobibor.
And remind our viewers, these were all in Poland.
They're all in Poland.
Because the Germans didn't want these in their homeland.
Exactly. They didn't want the notoriety. They didn't want to upset their own people, so they put them all in Poland.
It's kind of like hiding your dirty laundry somewhere else.
This center is John Weidman's inspiration as well.
Yeah.
That represents a crematorium. People were burned. Initially, they burned in crematoria. There were so many that eventually they just threw them into large pits. There's actually one photograph remains out of the Auschwitz Chronicles. It actually shows a distant picture of these huge pits were dug, and they just threw the bodies in. Initially, they started burning them by covering them with gasoline. But eventually, once they burn, the fat keeps burning and just keeps throwing the bodies in. They don't need anything more to burn them, and just throw in thousands of them. That was at the peak time in Hungary. They transported nearly 400,000 Jews in a period of 10 weeks. And Hungarians participated in this. The Hungarian government participated in this. There's still a lot of anti-Semitism in Hungary. If you think about how many trains it takes and how many people would have to be transported daily to transport 400,000 people in a matter of 10 days. And it turns out it's around 5,000 people per day. So each day, 2 trains come in, maybe 3, 2,000 people to train to unload 5,000 people day after day, 7 days a week for 10 weeks to get up to 400,000 people. If you think of the magnitude, Nashua is about 80,000 people.
Right.
If you think about 5,000 a day, that's 5,000 days, 35,000 a week. How many weeks would it take to take the entire population of Nashua?
With that?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah,
2.5
2,
weeks.
yeah.
The entire population of Nashua transported in 2.5 weeks and killed every one of them. That puts it in perspective.
Absolutely.
The enormity. Think of the enormity of this crime and how people, that's why there's absolutely no value placed. If you look at Schindler's List, there's a scene where the commander gets up and he takes this is a true story, he takes a rifle and he starts just shooting at people at random just to see how they would fall. That's a scene, that's a known historic event. That commander was eventually hung by his neck. But not enough Nazis were hung by the neck.
This black cube or black obelisk,
Yeah.
where all the names of the Polish, some of the Polish concentration camps, they're all teamed onto this. And I know what this is. It's one of the darkest, if not the darkest time in human history.
That is the darkest. And if you look at it, you can take a picture, you can look at this black cube. It reflects the name of one of the camps and put your picture in with that name into this cube. It reflects back to you.
Right.
And the significance, different people say different things about what this means to them. You think about it, it's just a matter of time and space. And being a Jew and looking at this cube, you could visualize it could have been you personally on one of these trains, sent to one of these death camps, put into a gas chamber, and killed and burned in a pit. And notice as the camera took the shots of these little kids walking through here, I saw their faces reflected in this black cube, and I saw the name of these camps reflected behind their image. And these kids were walking by, and I said, this is strange, but I can identify the fact that these kids in a different time could have been killed. That same age, that same size. And if you look, in fact, if you look at the bricks, there's something I want to point out in the bricks as we come back out. But one final thing, those bricks came from the mill yard in the days when they had a, what do you call them, it was not a crematory, it was an oven. The smokestack. I think
the big furnace.
The furnace.
Right.
I forgot what the furnace was for, but they used it for heating.
Oh, sure, and generate steam.
That's it, they generate the steam.
Right.
To
all the various factories. They had a huge steam processing plant, which is what that smokestack's all about.
Exactly. So when the building was torn down, with the Boston Parkway, Mayor Lozo allowed us to pick bricks to build this column. Those are actual brick columns from an oven.
That's awesome.
And my grandkids laid the couple of the bricks. My grandkids can actually show you which bricks they placed. Right, Jen? Yep. They can say, I don't know which ones they are, but they come, Brennan and Cameron come in, they can walk right in. By the way, that's my wife, Janice, who, without her, she's a co-founder. Obviously, without her, I wouldn't have been able to build this.
This place is so just reverent.
Look below you is, and it's kind of getting a little raunchy now, but that's actually coal ash. That's Weidman's idea of human ash. human ash coming from these crematorium or these burn pits.
Well,
This is a strange sight, and I come in here on my own, and it just hits me, and I start feeling teary. You come here by yourself, and look at this. You don't need a lot of people around you. The immensity of this crime hits you when you stand right here.
But then it comes singular when you see your own reflection.
And you see your own reflection.
Against one of the names of the country.
What I want to point out, at these bricks, in a public park, you cannot put monuments that are religiously oriented. So we can't say, this is a Jewish thing. You can't say this is a Christian thing. You can't, not in public, you cannot advertise one particular religion over any other particular religion. However, there are some people that came, I don't know where they came from, we never met them before, they made a sizable contribution. And I said, they were Christians. And I said, well, we cannot put a Christian symbol here. And we come up with the idea, if you look at this closely, and the bricks, it says William Lloyd Garrison, Newburyport, Massachusetts, and it makes a cross. So it makes a cross from here across to there.
Oh.
That's a cross, my friend, and that's a religious symbol.
Absolutely.
If you look at the top, looking down at the 6 walls, extend geometry, it makes the Star of David. Lay down a piece of paper, lay out 6 walls, just like they are geometrically, and then extend the lines, you see a Star of David.
That's vitamin for you.
And that is a religious symbol, my friend.
When you walk out of the memorial and you see Never Again, what are some of the take-home messages that you hope people get after they visit the memorial that you have inspired us all with?
We just hope they get some idea what this is about. What amazes me, a lot of people that I see don't understand the history. They say, gee, I didn't know this. They read the monuments, they get some idea. There's no guide to guide them around. We don't have a guide to guide people like I'm talking about it now. But maybe you get an idea if you look at this monument, Never Again. The size, the dimensions of the monument are the same as in 2001 movie, where you have the black obelisk all through the ages making a new planet.
Yeah.
That exact dimension, I came up with the dimensions for that. And if you want to measure it, you find it's not the exact size, but the exact ratio of dimensions, the width, the height to length.
That'll be for a whole other show. We talk about 2001 Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick was way over his head on that one.
This came to me in the middle of the night. 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, like a voice came to me. I got to my computer, I started typing, and it was the exact same text. I did not change a word of that text. The layout was a little different. The sentences weren't quite together like they are here, but the words were identical the way it came to me middle of the night. And so the war on the children. Carol mentioned the children in Ukraine being taken to Russia for whatever purpose. Hitler went after the children because he said, and they all said, if you don't kill the children, they go up and come after us. Of course they would. And this talks about the war on children. It says, and you can take a picture of it, and in the bottom it says, why did this happen? And there's really no answer.
No.
There is no answer to that question.
But we can remember so it doesn't happen again. Which is why you have Never Forget.
Never forget again. Coming in and never again as you come out.
Fred, I thank you for all your time today.
We have one more monument to go through.
Okay.
Because this is an important monument. You can edit some of it out, okay?
Oh, sure, no.
By the way, these benches, all people donated. Those benches came from McFarland, who I just mentioned here. That came from Temple Beth Abraham, that bench. But this is a monument. That's the last monument we put in. See, someone put a flower down. City's doing a nice job. I went to the Auschwitz album and I found this photograph. And I saw that little girl. And that girl is just like the girl in the red coat in Schindler's List movie. And I looked at that picture, look at that. That's a holding area. These people are waiting to be sent into the gas chamber because the gas chamber was full. There's so many people that they had to wait, obviously. That's a waiting area. That little child is that little child. And that statement comes from Genesis 4:10. What have you done? The voice of blood cries from the ground. That came, I started asking people about quotations, and that just came right out.
What have you done?
What have you done? What have you done? There's a lightning strike right through that granite. That granite is a New Hampshire granite. It's different from that granite. Right. It's more porous, and that's so you can see then about the childhood. And this also came to me, not in the middle of the night, but it did come to me about this little girl holding her hands. It's to think about, okay? Says, get me out of this place. And she can't get out of the place. She stands there, praying, get me out of here. Her youth is stolen from her into a heap of ash. I thank you. That's in many ways that's the most significant monument for me personally, because I was a hidden child. That little girl is a little older than I was. I was 5 years old, 43. I was 6, going to 7 when the war ended. She's probably what, 10?
Yeah.
10 years old. If you look at the bricks, you find the Teeboon family. You see they took babies, few months old, were killed. And the oldest person there was 70 years old. We live longer now than then. There was an old man, 70, all the way down to a little baby. I mean, who would kill a little girl like that? Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's Johnny Anchors reporting from Holocaust Memorial here in Nashville. I encourage everyone to come down and see it. And I'm hoping that when you do come, you learn a little. Yeah, I hope when you do come to the memorial that you see that what have you done cries out from the ground. And that when you leave, never again. We all need to take responsibility to make sure something like this never happens ever again. So, Fred, thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you for taking the time, my friend.
Sure. Good to see you. I'll see you soon.
Thank you for recording this.
Take care.